here we go again, off the back of another loss. And this one stings because this was an AFC divisional loss as well. Also, we're going to talk about why Fulton's parents should really stay off Twitter after the intro. Hey, welcome back to From the Cheap Seats. I'm your host, Bonafide. And given that it is the month of October, we are giving our best Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde impression because that performance in Indy was scary. All right. So let's get right into it. Talk about the game recap. Obviously, this was an L we took. And Jonathan Taylor, he played, came back in fresh off his new deal that he got from Jim Irsay and the Colts. And it looked like the Colts were ready to start like kill that streak, which they ended up doing. The streak that we have of losing to us in their own building. I think we have won like maybe 10 straight games or something like that in the building. Look, AR-15 was cooking that game, but then he like got knocked out because they moved him out of the pocket. He took a hard hit from Harold Landry, and now he's actually going to be out for a couple of weeks. So, Gardner Minshew came in as a backup, but he really wasn't the focus of the story. The focus was the Colts run game versus the Titans defense. Zach Moss pretty much had a career day against us. The biggest one that kind of jumps out on the screen was just like the 56-yard TD run that he had, like that was straight up in between the tackles. And, the defensive lineman and Aziz couldn't share their blocks, and he basically just beat everybody to the end zone. And that was really kind of like the story of the game. He had another touchdown that he ran in from short yardage, but it was just like the inability to stop the run was our Achilles heel in this game. We could not do it. Now, we were missing T.R. Tart, and it showed out in a big way because they ran straight up the middle. Minshew kind of led the offense up and down the field, not dinking and dunking, but he took some shots, and when they got into position, they used the run game to kind of finish the deals. They were really physical with us in that regards. Zach Downs was really a weapon that they utilized. You would think they would use Alec Pierce or Pittman, but Zach Downs had a day. The rookie, came in, took some, got a lot of catches, and basically propelled their passing game offense with both AR and Minshew in the game to get them into the red zone. Speaking of the red zone, we struggled mightily in the red zone. We couldn't convert to save our lives. The only touchdown that we got, Spears got it, and it was outside of the red zone, and it was on a reverse. The red zone struggles killed us. On the bright side, if there is a bright side to taking the L, DeAndre Hopkins had 8 catches for 140 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but he is doing, and he has been doing exactly what we are paying him to do, to produce on big third downs, first downs, catching the ball, making those catches that, we all know he can do. And I go back and think about the loss. This loss really isn't even on Tannehill or the offense. I can say that's up in the air, but it's not on Tannehill. Even though he threw that pick at the end of the game, which to be honest is typical Ryan Tannehill. We've come to love that, death pick coming from Ryan at the end of the game. And when I go back and look at it, basically it was just like, didn't need to throw that ball. It wasn't open. But anyway, so like I said, this loss stings because it was a divisional loss. We lost to the Colts in this particular game. And now I think they're sitting at the top of the division up there with the Jags, because the Jags won too. Houston lost, but we're at the bottom looking up. And it ain't gonna get any easier this coming up, So moving on, player of the game. It's kind of hard to find player of the games in losses. But like I said, I think we're gonna give this one to the rookie, Tyjae Spears. He had a really good game on today. So he got his first NFL touchdown on that reverse, and he had some good plays where he showed burst, and he bailed Tannehill out on one of those like desperation throws, and he made some positive yardage. So that he really showed the skill set that I was looking forward to seeing in the preseason and being a good compliment to Derek. So good job by the rookie, Tyjae Spears. He's our player of the game. Now, normally this would be everybody's favorite section, talking about Bonafide banter, but we're going back to Bonafide rants because I got a few things I want to talk about, get up off the chest, all right? I am really tired, but it seems like this is a vantage point into how the season is going to go. I literally found myself talking about the draft and recent draft classes during the game. And I feel like it's literally too soon for that, especially because we got almost like 10 games left. But man, it doesn't feel good right here in this frame. The vaunted run defense really missed Teair Tart a whole lot yesterday. In previous seasons, it would have been like next man up. But Pecco, yeah, he ain't Teair Tart. Teair was missing, and he probably gonna get paid just because of this previous game. Like another thing, I saw this in the game and I was like, man, what? Simmons probably wasn't 100% the whole game because he got blown up by Azeez Al-Shaair. Like, it was friendly fire, and he just got toasted. Like, yeah, I mean, it was a big hit. Like, had that been a defender, had Azeez actually hit somebody on the coat, they probably down too. But yeah, took Big Jeff out. We kind of nervous for there, but yeah. But speaking of Azeez, like, there were several times in last game, in that game against the Colts, like, the man just needs to wrap up. Stop with these freaking weak shoulder like shoves and things like that. It was numerous times during the game where he was just like had he just wrapped up the ball carrier, they would have went down. Instead of that, you know, they were bouncing off him and getting extra yards after this, you know, so-called big hit. Like, Vrabel preaches fundamentals. That's like one of his things. And I'm guaranteed that's gonna be on the big screen in the linebackers room over that. Cause it was just like, hey man, all you had to do is just wrap up and we'd be good to go. So we need to cut that crap. Now, the offensive line, and I gotta look up the number, things like that, but they seem to play better with Skoronski in the lineup. And I think, like, you know, it went good. I don't think there were any sacks. I don't recall Tannehill actually being sacked last game, even though there were kind of pressures and he stood in the pocket, took some big hits. But yeah, I know people are saying, hey, we need to give Spears more touches because look at what he can do. But this offensive line is solely about QB protection, in my opinion, and run blocking is not its forte. I don't believe that any running back is really going to be good, and that includes Spears, behind this line when the run blocking is so poor. Now, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine, and they say our run block win rate is kind of like the same as it's always been, like right there in the middle of the plaque, 2016. But it's just like, my eyes don't allow me to believe that stat. And I know that sounds weird, but it's just like, this line doesn't seem like it's opening up holes like it used to in the days before. So yeah, I think that's something that we need to, you know, they need to look at and address. Also, Kyle Phillips, outside of returning some punts, he was a non-factor on offense. I thought he might have been a slight improvement to the offense, but he was a non-factor, so it really didn't matter. So that's there. Then, you know, maybe it happens this week. Maybe he just needed to get back into game speed, things like that. But yeah, this week, nada. So this is a non-Titans related thing, but watching the Sunday night game against the 49ers and the Cowboys made me think of the Flip Cup Boys, aka our linebackers outside of Azeez. And they ain't good, man. Gibbons was getting burned all game. Gifford was out with some kind of like soft tissue injury, things like that. So, and none of them stands out. I don't even think I've seen Monty Rice play any meaningful snaps on defense. And when you look at the 49ers and you see Fred Warner and Greenlaw, this is something that, you know, on down the road during free agency and in the draft, Rand has got to fix, because our linebacking core is just like a non-factor. Yeah, we got to do something to fix that. This is something I wanted to talk about. I sent a tweet out yesterday, and I said that the one thing that, you know, irks me about Mike Vrabel is his inability to pull the trigger. He kind of holds on to things too long, and it's apparent. We've seen the examples. Dennis Daly playing left tackle when everybody and their grandmother knows that he shouldn't be. Todd Downing. Keeping him at offensive coordinator when he had a prime opportunity to move Tim Kelly into that role after the DUI that Todd Downing had. Like, when he holds on to something too long, it blows up in our face. And I get it, and don't get me wrong here. I'm trying to be as sensible as possible. You can't have knee-jerk reactions to things as they occur because you're never gonna get anywhere. You can never figure out who is really real and who's really fake until you can see what you can see. But sometimes you gotta see the pattern playing out. Like, and when you see that, you gotta move. Like Tim Kelly, for instance. Tim Kelly, and I'm just gonna die on this hill, was the right move for this team. We've seen that now. We've seen that now. We knew that Todd Downing wasn't it, and we knew we had Tim Kelly who had some experience in there. Obviously, yeah, you can make an argument whether or not it should have happened that time or this time, but yeah, making the move to Tim Kelly was that, but we probably made it a year too late. Now, these are the type of decisions that I'm talking about that kills our teams. So, and the thing about it, and where I'm keying in on this is Christian Fulton is a prime example of this. Outside of that 1 year where he came onto the scene, he's never really lived up to this so-called potential where we see him, or we got him on this pedestal as a, quarterback one. And, if he's not hurt, he's out of position, or he's getting, blown by the receiver, or he's biting on double moves, or he's got his eyes in the backfield. Like yesterday was a prime example of what? Then you hear him say this after the game when everybody in the pressers and the beat reporters are asking him how he felt.
He pushed me over. Thought I was score, so it was part of the game. Thought of me personally, bad call. So life is a DB, and that's what it is.
What is starting to go wrong? Typically, you're a very technically sound quarterback, but some things aren't happening. What's going into that?
I feel like I was very sound today. I mean, besides one play, with the one with 11, we caught the out or whatever, it was on me, I guess, bad eyes. But for the most part, I think today was, technically sound. Obviously, they made some plays or whatever, but it's hard when you got to play against, the refs and the DBs. I mean, at the end of the receiver. But life is a DB, and, I'm going to keep stepping every time, so I can be back next week.
So you hear him say that, and then you watch him commit, and you're watching the game, and he's committing blatant DPI calls. It's a blatant lack of awareness, self-awareness, game time awareness, especially when Vrabel was having a press conference right there, press conference in the other room, saying that he considered benching Christian Fulton during the game. Now, I get it that it may not be another cornerback on this team that can step up in a position. And that's thanks to John Robinson for blowing out picks on a cornerback that can't stay healthy and one that can't cover. I'm talking about Farley and Fulton. But we got to do something. Like, there has to be either a free agent, somebody we can pick up off the street. Now, I get it, they're on the street for a reason. Or somebody on the roster that can do a better job at covering wide receiver than Christian Fulton is doing right now. Because I said it a few weeks back that Christian Fulton is doing everything right if you don't want to get an extension from the Tennessee Titans. Like, he is costing himself money, and I think his ego is getting in the way. I think you heard Big Jeff say in the presser that my bads get you beat. My bads don't win football games. So him saying, oh, it's my bad and things like that, and just being like utterly lost at the cornerback position is costing us games. Right now, I highly believe that they're going to let Christian Fulton walk after this season. Because there is no way, if I'm Rand Carthon, I'm spending money on a guy who can't cover a tray table with a tablecloth. You understand me? So unless something changes over the next couple of weeks, I don't think Christian Fulton is going to be on this team. And I don't even think Christian Fulton might be playing or starting for this team if something doesn't click for him right away. And also, another thing, like, his parents got to get off of Twitter. They got to stop name searching, because what we saying about your son ain't nothing different than what the coach is saying about your son. So, yeah, Fulton parents, stay off Twitter until your son gets better or on another team, because you're going to get cooked mercifully on that one. All right. So, coming up, And as we wrap this video up, we're sitting at 2-3, and we all know what's going on next week. We're going to London. And this game is going to be on early on Sunday morning. And we're playing the Ravens, who just lost this week. Now, the problem that I'm seeing right now in this particular way is that the Ravens are already on their way to London. While you're watching this video, the Ravens are on their way to London. And we're still in Tennessee. Now, I know Mike Vrabel came out in his presser and he talked about how he's trying to keep the schedule the same way he did before. But let me tell you something. I traveled to Dublin in 2022, and that was a 10-hour flight. And I didn't feel myself until like I was on my way back home. And look, I'm not playing a professional football game there. I was sitting in the office. So I don't want that to be an excuse like, hey, I just felt sluggish and things like that. You know, so that's something definitely we need to watch out, and we're going to talk about in our preview. But if you made it this far, don't forget to tune into the next episode where we're going to be previewing that London game versus the Ravens. And don't forget, once we hit 500 subscribers, we're going to kick off our 1K giveaway. So make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Because like I always say, there is plenty of room in the section for all of us. So until next time, tighten up.